We don't need any of this.
This house belongs to us now. I'm not gonna let anybody take that away from us.
I'm calling the police.
No!
These things, you never know how it can change someone. I would never hurt Leonard. I know none of this is you.
I don't know. Looks like you to me. I think it's you.
Welcome to Cordkillers, the show about watching the stuff you love, when you want, where you want, however you want. I'm Tom Merritt.
Hey, I'm Brian Brushwood, and more importantly, that was a trailer for a new Netflix. Is it an original?
Yes, I don't know if it's a movie or a series, but it's called Dangerous Lies. It's about a caretaker whose wealthy patient passes away, and then he leaves his entire estate, including all of the secrets that lie within. That's coming April 30th to Netflix.
Liked it better when it was called Knives Out by Ryan Johnson. What? Anyway, we've got joining us from the Twit Network. It's Jason Howell. How are you, Jason?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm so stoked to see you guys and to join you on the show today. Thank you.
Yeah, quick programming. No, we are flying high. What was it? Flying blind on a rocket cycle.
It's 420, everyone.
No, oh, yeah, that's right. YOLO. No. I was going to say flying blind on a rocket cycle because we had internet giving us issues, but we're doing our best. So if things get kooky, then hang in there.
Yeah, primary target.
No, don't. You can't.
Sure.
No, but seriously, primary target. Following launching in India and 8 European countries over the last 3 weeks, Disney announced Disney Plus now has more than 50 million subscribers, adding more than 21 million subscribers in the last 2 months. 8 million of those were subscribers to Hotstar in India, which was converted to Disney Plus Hotstar, making all those existing subscribers instantly Disney Plus subscribers. But even if you don't count that, Disney forecast 40 million by the end of September, and without Hotstar, they've got 42 million. So they're already way ahead of schedule. Disney's goal is to hit 60 to 90 million subscribers by 2024. That's when they think they will become profitable. But is this just a Disney thing, or is everybody jumping into the streaming pool because they are home with nothing else to do? Well, Quibi launched last week with 1.7 million downloads in week 1. That is free for now, mobile-only short video, kind of hard to compare to Disney Plus. They did say they're fast-tracking their plans to let you cast Quibi shows to a television. One of the major complaints is that you can't do that. Some other notes here of stats before we talk over all this. Analytics firm SimilarWeb estimates YouTube TV viewership rose 40% between February 1st and April 8th, going from 580,000 views to 830,000. HBO Max is up next. It's pricey at $15 a month, but it may benefit from folks already paying $15 a month for HBO Now and converting over. Roku estimates it ended March with about 3.9 million more active accounts than the previous quarter and expects streaming time will end up 49% year over year. Roku was expecting a reduction in Q1 streaming time as it introduced an Are You Still Watching feature, but instead it went up. So even with that new feature, and just by comparison, great. Disney Plus has 50 million subscribers. Netflix has 167 million worldwide. So that there's lots of room for growth there. Brian, it's a bunch of numbers that are basically saying, lots of people watch a video, which I guess isn't terribly surprising. But do you get a sense of who's faster out of the gate right now?
Yeah, I certainly do. However, I must admit, and look, I'm on the show, so ostensibly I heard this at some point, but did I hear you right? I did a bit of a consumer double take when you said that HBO Max would be $15, but we suspect a lot of HBO Now people will convert because they're paying $15. Like just so to go from Now to Max is a totally free proposition, huh?
Yes. Yeah. We both expressed our thoughts on that when they announced it, but it's easy to have forgotten that was real. Yeah.
Well, I mean, okay.
They basically said, we think our viewers are smart enough to know what to do. That was the quote.
Yeah. In my defense, not the weirdest part about HBO Max to me.
No.
The fact that it's essentially free. But however, I do want to give a heartfelt congratulations to Quibi for almost catching up with YouTube sensation Scam School. YouTube.com/Scam School. Look, you guys are going to catch right up with that channel. Congrats on beating the Mono Rogue. You know what's funny is we were joking about this, and Justin downloaded the app and still refuses to watch a single thing until he gets a single person that tells him there's a single thing worth watching on the app that he downloaded. Quibi, I don't want to derive any joy from dancing on any graves, but it looks an awful lot like an unmitigated disaster that was exactly the way we said it was going to go. Is this just me?
I think timing is obviously a part of this, right? I'm sure you guys have already talked about it on the show.
No, in fact, because we had tech issues and continue, we weren't able to talk about it last week. But this is the first time we've gotten to really weigh in on it. I don't know. We've been predicting it being a disaster before the pandemic, and it could have, in an alternate reality, the pandemic could have been the best thing to happen to this, but it doesn't appear to have been. And I don't think.
I just don't know who's turning to their phone right now to watch content when we've got big screens in our living room. And thankfully they're working on casting content. That's great. I personally like playing around with the app and kind of watching some content, though admittedly not watching anything all the way through, even in their short bit form. Like, I think it's neat that it has the kind of changing perspective, portrait to landscape, and like perfectly framed for either of those, but still feels very gimmicky. And at the end of the day, like scrolling through the shows, there's not a whole lot of appealing content on there. I thought the Most Dangerous Game looks intriguing, but then the idea of watching it in 10-minute chunks really sounds unappealing in the longer run. It's like, well, just give it to me like everything else. And maybe that's just my legacy habits kicking in. But with the whole pandemic, everybody inside, I really think people aren't looking to watch something in this way as much as they are just like, I want to forget about the world and just put something up on my wall.
Remind you of this. For every one adult insisting on watching on a large screen television in my house, there are 4 children. I guess, no, I only have 3 kids. There are 3 children watching on small screens. However, at least one of them is always on 2 screens at the same time. So I stand behind that. There are 4 small screens being used. So I don't know that we could say during a pandemic, everyone prefers bigger screens.
Totally.
Well, and honestly, I mean, it's fun to call it a disaster. And yes, it's fun to say you were right. I don't think this is a disaster. 1.7 million downloads in the first week is very good. If it weren't Jeffrey Katzenberg and Meg Whitman throwing Steven Spielberg in your face, if this was some unknown startup, you'd be blown away by 1.7 million downloads in the first week for a short form video service. The thing is, they've got so much money coming in from this from advertisers. They've got a lot of runway to keep going. Their premise was, here are quick things that you can watch in between other stuff in your busy life. The problem isn't that you're at home. The problem is you don't have as busy of a life, or at least if your life's busy, it's not busy in the same way. You're not standing in line waiting to go in somewhere. You're not sitting in your car waiting to go in somewhere, unless it's the grocery store or a testing station, right? This is just not the scenario Quibi wanted to launch into.
I will absolutely cede that point because I have heard, I don't have any firsthand knowledge of this, but I've been told that podcast numbers are down, way down, because people aren't commuting.
Depends on who you ask. Yeah, PodTrack is noticing a downward trend. Acast says it's flat, but that's still flat, right?
But meanwhile, live entertainment, like right now we're streaming to twitch.tv/nightattack, and that appears to be up. I mean, it's like shooting fish in a barrel, whereas if me playing a video game used to get 40 or 50 people, now it gets 150 people on there. So it could be that they're genuinely impacted by that, and they're just waiting for people to go back to their commutes, because there are podcasts. For example, our friends over at We Have Concerns, they would, instead of doing 1 hour-long podcast per week, they would do 3 20 minutes, and it was a hard 20 minutes because that's how long most commutes were, and that's the end of it. So it could be that Quibi was the right solution to, and it could be just the wrong time. But if not today, when? We don't know when things will go back to normal.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, and like you said earlier, they do have the advertising locked into place to give them that cushion, spelled Quish.
Quick. So it's a quick cushion.
Yeah. Right. Quick cushion. So I mean, at least there's that. Like maybe, you know, from that regard, they're sweating it a little less. But you're right, Brian. We don't actually know when things return to whatever normal is as far as a productivity and time crunch standpoint, which is what this was really designed to kind of fit in between. I will also say, just from my perspective of living in this kind of new way for the last month and a half, that I've grown a much more of an appreciation for the fact that my life is a lot slower in some ways. So returning to this, I've got to fill every moment of my life when I'm standing in line at the grocery store, sandwiched in between all these other things, a return to that chaotic life that then fills all of my spare time with short little bits that I have to, wedge in there. That kind of sounds a little less appealing to me right now because I'm enjoying the space. You know what I mean?
I still don't see this as a hugely successful model. I don't think people were crying for this. And it's sad to me that it's an unfair test for them. I would like to see this launch into a normal world and just see what that uptake is. They got a bunch of downloads because they gave this thing away from free. It was advertised all over all the app stores because they pushed for promotion. But I watched it. And while I thought my wife's group's produced show at Rotten Tomatoes was fantastic, I couldn't get through anything else. Like I would watch something and I get halfway through and I'm like, I'm bored. Like I couldn't get through 10 minutes of a thing before being bored. I just wanted to move on. And I feel like they're trying to compete with TikTok while putting on Netflix, HBO level production. And those are two different things. Like you don't want that out of your TikTok.
I think you're 100% right. And the thing that they missed the mark on is everybody thinks that TikTok's genius is that it stepped into the empty void left behind Vine, or that it, is vertical, or that it's short, or what have you. TikTok's genius is its AI algorithm paying attention to what you're paying attention to. And if they had introduced some aspect of this, were you able to maybe say, hey, here's what your friends are talking about and watching. Let me give you a digest. Oh, I noticed that you only got a third of the way into it. Now we're going to algorithmically give you the short version of the rest of this episode. Or we noticed that you suddenly froze and watched all this, so we're algorithmically going to give you the 15-minute version of this episode or whatever. Or we've written this story in blocks where there's a B story that can be inserted later to fill it out or earlier to keep it going, and we're going to watch your viewing behavior. Something totally radical like that, I think, number one, is what TikTok does, because it watches what you watch and doesn't even ask you if you want more, just feeds it to you. They could have done something like that, and it could have worked with crazy storytelling, whether it's news or narrative stuff, especially stuff based on like middle material, like what happened between this part and that part on Westworld. Here's as much of that story as you are willing to pay attention to.
I mean, I look at this and I see a parallel to Hulu, right? Which is Hulu fundamentally misunderstood what YouTube was for and accidentally created something great. I think Quibi fundamentally misunderstands what people use their phones to watch video for. I don't get the sense that they've accidentally created something great. Could be totally wrong. Maybe 6 months into this, suddenly the thing happens that catches everybody's attention and everybody's talking about it, but it's not there yet.
Can I make
and they've thrown money and celebrity at it as well, so they didn't skimp in that regard. They seem to have attracted a lot of talent.
And that's what reminds me of Hulu. Is Hulu took like broadcast cable television, the best of the best. Like this is what you wanted from YouTube. Well, here you go. We'll give it to you on Hulu. And people are like, no, I mean that was kind of cool on YouTube. It's not what we were there for, but we'll also take that. And there was a need for that kind of programming when Hulu did it, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, Hulu was a tongue-in-cheek, man. I guess it's been long enough we can tell this story to anybody young enough. Hulu was meant to fail. It was meant to prove that there was no case to be made to YouTube. It was meant to claim that YouTube was nothing but pirated good stuff from television, and to prove it, we'll make a YouTube only with good stuff from television. See, oh wait, it's suddenly one of the most popular sites on the internet.
Oh, also didn't kill YouTube. Crap.
Right,
It was supposed
exactly.
to do both. Yeah.
But it took a while before we got into a world of Hulu originals. At least Hulu out of the gate knew exactly what it was. Weird television just when you missed it. Where everybody's DVR, that kind of thing. TikTok, not TikTok, Quibi. Quibi might have enough tech and, more importantly, data that it's gathering right now that it could get around to becoming good if it survives a year to 3 years or whatever. But Vessel lasted, I always bring up Vessel lasted barely over a year. When everybody got that first year for free and then ran out of everything. And I believe the investment in Vessel was $150 million. So we're looking at about 6x that into Quibi.
Yeah,
charitably, let's say Quibi lasts 3 to 4 years before they're well and truly, they've got to have a smash hit. And it's not too late for them. It's not too late.
Look for them to pivot. Unless there's a Quibi hit, and the Quibi we see right now is it. Look for them to pivot.
Can I
Look for
make a
them
prediction?
to turn into a streaming service for your set-top box on your television with originals that are more than 10 minutes long at some point.
Here's my prediction. Quibi channels. Anyone can be a Quibi producer now, thanks to Quibi channels. Here's how you produce your content so it can be seen in portrait or landscape mode. Here's how you use our services to decide when the breaks are, and if the service evolves to where, you know, some of the nuttier ideas that I just proposed maybe get involved or whatever. Like, that's the only way. That's the crazy pivot I see in the future.
Let's keep an eye on this, because I think that's a smart pivot. I don't see Katzenberg making that pivot, though.
I mean, at some point, the shareholders will insist upon it.
That's a scenario that could make you right, as Katzenberg leaves, right? And he's like, "Yep, see ya. That's not what I want to work on. Have fun with your Quibi." And then they do that.
And then
right?
the news headlines become, you know, Quibi quintuples its user base overnight because anybody can make a Quibi now.
Do
you think creators would want to go through?
Where's my trademark?
Yeah. Go ahead, write that
Apparatus.
down. It's cool.
But think about this. The problem with user-generated content on Quibi is right now you have to make content in both directions, and it has an upper time limit, which means if for whatever reason you can't meet any of those things, you would just go to YouTube.
So here's
why wouldn't you just go to YouTube? I guess, where people
picture
are.
this. Picture a mode where every iPhone that could do 4K at 60 frames per second or whatever. Imagine that as you're shooting, you have a portrait and landscape overlay. So you just shoot for that. And one of the aspects of Quibi creators is that it's shot in 4K, but it never displays more than 1080 or something like that.
Yeah, Quinfluencers.
Quinfluencers? That sounds so
this
gross. That's good. If you're a Quinfluencer, seek medical attention immediately, or head on over to our doctor, drpatreon.com/Cordkillers. That's where you can keep us.
Quinn.
Dr. Quinn. Influencer medicine, whatever. Okay. Look, keep us loud, live, and independent. Head on over for a bucket episode. You can make our dreams come true. You get your own RSS feed. And guess what? You got a real voice. You're a real stakeholder, just like the people who are eventually going to out Jeffrey Katzenberg. You have a voice in this show. Thank you very much to all of our patrons at patreon.com/Cordkillers.
Throw us away. Yes. Patreon.com/Cordkillers is right. Let's talk about how to watch. Hey, Brian.
Yep. Jason, Tom.
NBC's Peacock launched.
Oh, they finally unleashed the cock?
Yeah, it's up. For customers of Comcast's Xfinity Flex service. With a rollout coming to Xfinity X1 users this week, or at least within the next few weeks, the service is set to arrive for non-Comcast customers July 15th. Though NBC Universal is apparently evaluating whether it might move that up. They haven't made that decision yet. Peacock has 3 tiers. There's a limited one with ads that's free. That one isn't launching until July 15th. That has less content than the normal Peacock, but it's free with ads. Then there's a everything but with ads that's free for Comcast customers. That's what they're getting right now, and will be $5 a month July 15th for others. Then there's an ad-free tier. If you're a Comcast customer, you pay $5 a month to get that. If you're not, you pay $10 a month to get that. And again, that's available for some Comcast customers now, but everybody on July 15th. Peacock also released a trailer for an original series based on the novel Brave New World that will be launching when Peacock launches for everyone July 15th.
I absolutely guarantee you that after crushing a Natty Light in 1979, somebody introduced his car to his girlfriend as, I call her Xfinity Flex. No, I think that the Peacock is well positioned. They obviously were dealt a huge blow with the Olympics being moved forward. I don't think that's going to hinder the rightness of everything that they're doing about the rollout and the various tiers. Jason, how excited are you about Peacock?
Not very excited about Peacock. I think what it is just the sheer number of these services. I realize everything's moving online, and this is just the way of the world and streaming right now. But my goodness, every single little bucket.
But keep in mind, one of the strongest parts of their announcement was all of the back catalog of NBC eventually, all of the Cheerses and the Seinfelds and the whatevers. Like if you want to binge and kill time.
Actually, neither one of those.
I know, but I'm sorry, I can't. Those are the NBC shows I think of.
Those are CBS shows, actually. But go ahead.
But my point is, they've got deep bingeable catalogs, and I think that's actually a good time for them to be pushing forward.
My only question here is, should they be just launching this for everybody? I understood the tiered rollout before because you had the Olympics coming in the summer that you wanted to ride on. You wanted to give a soft launch for Peacock with your Comcast customers, but things are different. You're not getting the Olympics, and boy, people really want another streaming service more than they do. I know, Jason, your sentiment is common, but if someone were to want to try a new streaming service, now would be a more likely time for that, don't you think?
I would completely agree. Like if you've got something on the deck, now would be the time to release it because people are looking like, one thing we were talking about Disney Plus earlier, and that was a similar thought that I had then. What a great time for Disney Plus to exist. And it's probably the same for Peacock because there are so many people just holed up looking for content to either feed to their children because their children need something new to watch or for themselves. I think for myself, and this tends to be my own pattern with services like this, is that I drop in here and there. I don't subscribe on a monthly basis to a lot of things outside of Netflix and Amazon. So those are like my always, because Amazon is roped in with Prime and Netflix is just Netflix. I'm used to having it. Everything else, it's like I drop in. And I suppose to that end, great. This is going to be an NBC month. So I drop in for some hard Peacock, and I switch that up to different services. If
I think
I
you're
suddenly
right,
want to
man.
watch the second season of Mandalorian, great, Disney Plus.
I mean, despite the soft launch of the cock, I can't wait to see what's on Dick.
Yeah. You got a New Zealand accent there for a second.
Sorry.
The thing is that this is going to have a free tier that you can actually dive in easily, right? You won't even have to subscribe. I still don't understand, unless they're worried about capacity issues, why they're not just rolling this out to everybody faster. Why they're still holding to July 15th.
I think it is capacity issues. I think that this was always intended as a secret beta test that would keep, because it would be a PR disaster for as masterful as they've been in all of the rollouts so far. I would be shocked if they would just let it be just flip the switch all at once. Because if Disney couldn't pull off a flawless overnight launch, then nobody can. And so I'm convinced it's all just, let's make sure we do each phase right.
Related to this, because it's NBC, Fandango, which is mostly owned by NBC, has agreed to buy Vudu from Walmart. Those are all real company names. Vudu will continue to power Walmart's digital and TV movie store. Vudu customers will have uninterrupted access to their Vudu library. You can still use your Walmart login and wallet if you want. Fandango already has its own Fandango Now digital movie and TV store. That's the old MGO that Fandango acquired. So we don't know what they plan to do with Vudu. And it's interesting that NBC is not buying Vudu itself. Fandango is buying it. Fandango is owned mostly by NBC Universal. AT&T holds 30% of it through the Warner Brothers acquisition. Warner Brothers holds 30% of it. And on a side note, by the way, Fox has completed its acquisition of ad-supported streamer Tubi. We told you about that before and said that was in process. Now it's done. Tubi is now owned by Fox, not the Disney Fox, the Fox that's left over after Disney. And now Fandango has agreed to buy Vudu, but Vudu isn't owned by Fandango yet, although the acquisition is expected to close in a few months, so it's not expected to take a long time.
Jason, there's so much about this that we don't know and can't know because it's not disclosed, but I got the sense that you definitely feel like this is an increasingly crowded marketplace, and you made me have a thought that I don't know that we've discussed on this show before, the idea of purely speculative buys, not with the intention of doing anything with it, but just being able to sell that catalog to whoever, like right now we have a few major players in these spaces. Would it make sense for anybody, including Fandango, to make this purchase and maybe put on a show like they're going to do something with it, but then fully intend just to sell everything for more when in the content battles, like real estate, basically, treating it just like a real estate speculative purchase?
That's a good point, because when I read this, I didn't really understand why Fandango would need a Vudu with Fandango now. It's hard to know what the differences between the two were. If they weren't already kind of in that market, it would make a whole lot more sense. Maybe they have plans longer term to merge these two efforts in some way, shape, or form. And usually when they do a buyout like this and they say, oh, we're not going to change a thing, somewhere 2, 3, 4 years down the line, it does change. Maybe they have plans for that. But hey, speculative purchases, that doesn't sound like something that doesn't happen in this marketplace, at least to some degree. Right now seems like a really good time to own a streaming company, though. So maybe that does give them some extra value to do something with that down the line.
Vudu has Mr. Mom, an original content. They had plans for other original content. We'll see if that sticks around. But mostly Vudu is a store. And if I'm Fandango, who makes most of my money off of selling tickets, and I'm seeing that you're not making any money off selling tickets, and even when theaters reopen, probably not going to be the growth industry, I'm going to want to add customers to the place where I am going to be selling an increasing number of things. And one way to add customers is to buy a competitor. That way you now have instantly 14.5 million more customers. This is why Tech TV was sold to Comcast. Tech TV couldn't get more subscribers on their own. They needed leverage. So that's how Comcast decided, we can increase the number of viewers of G4 by buying Tech TV, merging it into G4. Boom, suddenly more viewers. I feel like that's the explanation here is Vudu has a better interface, in my opinion. Vudu has a very long history. It's more than 10 years old, so it's got a lot of customers with a lot of libraries. Suddenly, you've got a bigger base and more money coming in.
So you think Fandango is and this is so not fair for me to know so little and be so far outside, but I guess in this crowded marketplace, I guess you're still on board with the idea that Fandango is really making a play to be in it for the long term in this space.
Well,
specifically as the content. Sorry.
I mean, I should disclose too that my wife works for Fandango, which also owns Rotten Tomatoes, and my health insurance is through them. So I don't know. Maybe don't
you know what? I redact my question. I'm saying
I'm not drawing off any inside information when I say this, though. But if Fandango wants to stay in business, they're probably not served well by only doing theater tickets, right? They need to hedge their bets against the future. One of the ways is okay, what do we do well? We hook people up with things to watch. Rotten Tomatoes does that. Fandango does that with theater tickets. That's why they bought MGO, is to say and now we can do it with movies and TV shows that we sell directly. And if they're looking at Vudu and Walmart's look, we don't want to be in this business anymore. It's a fine business. We just don't want to be in it. And I'm Fandango and I've got NBC helping me to, guarantee the loan. I want to buy that because that is a valuable business. Vudu's very successful and it's got a lot of customers. Okay, I don't see why that wouldn't make perfect sense.
I guess I'm just thinking of just how crowded the marketplace is, but now I'm thinking of it differently.
You're consolidating the market, right? You're not adding to the market. You're already in the market with a little player, Fandango. Now you're taking a bigger player and adding it to that.
Well, and
there's fewer competitors.
We've talked before about how Fandango had some initiatives where they would get feedback and reviews from, and you would get points as a viewer at the movie theater. Like the moment you walk out, you would essentially be doing focus group material, which number one would of course increase the value of their reviews and matching the right types of movies with the right people. But now when I think think of it as this is a way for them to continue that experience after you get home, where it's like, hey man, we just watched you go see this movie and this other movie and this third movie, and this is what you said about it. Do you trust us? Because this is just give me $5 and buy this movie right now.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That's a great advantage that they'll be able to have. But even beyond that, it's just like getting money from the people who never step foot in a theater that you wouldn't be getting money from otherwise.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about what to watch in Under Surveillance.
Like real estate, it's all about location.
Under surveillance.
Late night hosts and celebrities put on a live stream Saturday called One World Together at Home. We had Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, Stephen Colbert hosting. Performances from the Rolling Stones, Billie Eilish, Paul McCartney, Elton John, John Legend, Casey Musgraves, among many others. It was curated by Lady Gaga, who was instrumental in figuring out, who was going to make stuff and getting it all in there and what stuff ran in prime time and what stuff was earlier in the day. And the full stream ran on Apple, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, ABC, NBC, CBS, and BBC One. It was on a bunch of other places too. This was a simulcast around the world, both on and off the internet.
They haven't released like numbers of how many people. I don't know why they would.
I haven't seen it. No.
Yeah, I didn't see it. Did any of you guys see it? Like it?
I watched a fair part of it, and it was like this show, but not as good. In production value, right? Like,
sure.
I mean, granted, the Rolling Stones are way better at playing a song than I am, and that was fascinating. Seeing Paul McCartney and his suit, seeing all the different setups, and like who had good lighting and who didn't, who had good sound and who didn't. Most of it was pre-recorded, so that the musicians could make sure that they had a really good recording of their song. But it was fun, and the Rolling Stones played none of them in the same location, right? They're all in 4 different locations, so some of that was incredibly impressive.
Yeah, but I get the sneaky suspicion they practiced ahead of time. I think they knew what they were playing.
I've heard that musicians do that. Jason, you're a musician. I'm curious. Do you practice ahead of time when you perform?
When I perform, I don't really perform a whole lot. So that would answer that. But heck yes, I think I would put in a little bit of time practicing before one of these things. But they're the Rolling Stones. They've literally spent their entire life practicing.
I throw a tiny bit of shade at One World at Home, and then the internet decides to do that to us. I just, that's what happens.
It's the whole world.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that we will hear from you folks too, cordkillers@gmail.com. Meanwhile, Saturday Night Live aired a full show of pre-recorded bits from the cast's houses. A lot of people watched it with a strong 4.6 live plus same day rating. Most recent SNL was hosted by Daniel Craig March 7th with a 4.1. So the ratings went up, even though none of them were at home. It was the second most viewed SNL this year. The first most common was the one in December hosted by Eddie Murphy. Same kind of thing. These were all sketches that had to be done with everyone in their individual locations. I feel like the one that went off the best was Weekend Update, partly because Michael Shea has just a great presence, and they were able to pull off their dynamic the way they always are, because it was just one-on-one. But they also put a live audience in Zoom. So they had some laughs. They had some natural reactions to what they do.
Yeah, we've talked a bit about this. That social context, that social proof matters so much. And I'm so curious to see how they solve all this down the road.
Then, aka the Video Game and Entertainment News Network, is launching a television channel focused on esports, gaming culture, and video game news. The channel is meant to be carried on cable, but will also stream some content on YouTube and Twitch. This is launching right now, by the way, in the middle of all of this. The company says it has 7 distribution partners lined up and is moving up its launch date from autumn to July. Then co-CEOs are Ben Kusin, a former Vivendi executive and the son of a GameStop co-founder. And the other is Ariel Horn, formerly Riot Games head of production and also a former NBC Sports executive.
Man, you want to talk about the right time when all of a sudden esports is exploding. Everybody's spending more time at home. You have a bunch of independent creators all working on their home studios so that they connect. This is like the inverse Quibi of launches.
Well, and that's why it's like, oh crap, we need to move this up. We need to launch this soon. In fact, July might even be slightly late to catch the wave of all the esports stuff that's happening right now. But there will be some momentum that'll carry in there. Vanity Fair released a series of stills from Denis Villeneuve's upcoming Dune movie. It's our first look at Timothée Chalamet as Paul Atreides, Oscar Isaac as Duke Leto Atreides, Zendaya as Shani, Sharon Duncan Brewster as ecologist Liet Kynes. The list just keeps going. Everyone's in this movie. Alejandro Jodorowsky and David Lynch, of course, famously both attempted to make Dune. Lynch actually did make one, took his name off of it, but it is out there. You can't watch Jodorowsky's. You can only see the documentary about what he had planned to do. Villeneuve's attempt arrives December 18th. What do y'all think of it from the pics?
I think I can't speak to from the pics, but I think that when it comes to science fiction, we have a much more sophisticated consumption audience than we did 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. And we're accustomed to weirder, deeper stories. I would like to think that instead of the idea being to simplify everything, because there was also the sci-fi series of Dune that was essentially like a play in front of a green screen that was really weird. I have high hopes for this, but then again, I'm unfairly biased. Jason, do you trust this to be good?
I think it looks appealing. I was a fan of the original or the Dune, the David Lynch version.
I was
of Dune.
too.
So it kind of falls in the category of like, why do you got to remake it? It's already been done before. But I mean, by the look of the pics, like, yeah, there's some appealing shots in there that I'm looking forward to. I will admit that I know very little about the production behind the scenes other than kind of the cast that's in there right now. There's a lot of players in there that I really like. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'll definitely watch it.
Everybody's mentioning the TV miniseries too. I didn't mention the TV miniseries alongside these because it's a TV miniseries, and that's a different beast and easier to pull off in a lot of ways. But I don't mean that to damn it with faint praise. The TV miniseries was actually really good. It's my favorite so far of all of the creations of Dune. So thank you for reminding me about that. Finally, Martin Scorsese's looking for a new partner for his next movie, Killers of the Flower Moon, starring Leonardo DiCaprio. Paramount backed off. They said too much money. Not going to pay for that. So Netflix and Apple are rumored to be in discussions to pick it up. It's been more than a week since this news broke. We haven't heard anything more about it.
Do you think?
Dear God, be shorter than The Irishman, just please, just a little bit shorter. I mean, it doesn't have to be like an hour and a half because I don't know.
The story takes as long as it takes to tell, Jason.
Well, The Irishman took a little too long to tell. Let's just say. But I'm looking forward to this. Anything that Scorsese does, I will always give it a watch. And especially with, him in collaboration with Leonardo DiCaprio, they make good movies together. So I'm looking forward to it.
All right, Disney's Artemis Fowl movie, based on the series by author Ian Colfer, will be released to Disney Plus now, June 12th, instead of heading to theaters. It was supposed to come out last year, got delayed. Now it's going straight to Disney Plus. Warner Brothers moved a few movie release dates. The Batman, starring Robert Pattinson, moves from June 25th, 2021 to October 1st, 2021. So we're starting to see the cascade happen. They're making room to move things into next summer and then moving things out from next summer. The Sopranos prequel, The Many Saints of Newark, is going from September 25th this year to March 12th, 2021. Disney says it's going to make an updated CGI version of its 1973 movie Robin Hood. That will also go straight to Disney Plus. Blind Spotting director Carlos Lopez Estrada will direct, and Lady and the Tramp remake writer Cary Garland will write the script. Netflix is launching a Jerry Seinfeld comedy special called 23 Hours to Kill on May 5th. It was shot during Seinfeld's residency at the Beacon Theater in New York. Coming May the 4th, which is Star Wars Day, an 8-part behind-the-scenes documentary series of The Mandalorian will arrive on Disney+. We also have the Netflix comedy Space Force, starring Steve Carell. That's coming to Netflix May 29th. HBO Max is getting a Justice League Dark and The Shining TV series. And HBO, not Max, released a trailer for a reboot/origin story of Perry Mason, coming to HBO June 21st, starring Matthew Rhys as Perry Mason alongside Tatiana Maslany and John Lithgow.
Do you think you're gonna? I'm saying this out loud, and I realize I know the answer. You're gonna watch all 8 hours of the documentary about the Mandalorian. Like I can't think of another thing like this. A thing where the behind the scenes is just as long as the thing itself, and I'm pretty sure I'll love every second of it.
I don't know if I will. Like, maybe I will. I don't know. I'm not as much into the extras stuff. I do a show called Let's Talk About Star Wars, so I have a feeling I'll be nudged into watching it anyway because of that. We'll see. I'm actually not as excited for this because it is behind the scenes, and I feel like I know what I'm going to see. I didn't see anything in the description that surprises me.
8 parts is a little daunting for a behind the scenes documentary on something like The Mandalorian. I might be interested in watching 1, maybe 2. Who knows? Maybe I'd watch it and be like, oh my God, this is an amazing reality show of some
maybe
sort.
That's
but
part of it.
I don't know how appealing eight full episodes of a documentary behind the scenes, how much that appeals to me.
All right, let's talk about something we've had our eyes on. What have you been watching, Brian Brushwood?
I watched Tales from the Loop a little bit, the first 3 episodes. I don't know if we mentioned it last time, but it's they're all a little bit too long. So have something else to do while it's on in the background and enjoy them for what they are. But Bryce went farther into it than I did.
Yeah, I made it. I think there are 8 episodes. I think I watched 7 or so. It's interesting because the first couple of episodes start off and you think it's like, oh, this is like Black Mirror, but it all takes place in the same place and whatever. But then as you get into episode 4 and 5 and 6, you start seeing like a lot of the same characters come back and then you start seeing some stories continue. So it's not an anthology, but it's also a little bit story of the week, but there's also some serial elements to it. So I think it's weird, and it's definitely too long. It's definitely like 10-15 minutes too long each episode, but it's very pretty, and it's based off of those surreal high sci-fi posters, and so you get a lot of that imagery.
Yeah, everybody says it's beautiful. I'm going to finally take the dive and watch this eventually. Justin, he's not on the show. I won't ask him what he's going to watch. Instead, I'll ask Jason. Jason, what have you been watching?
Let me tell you, Tom. No, sorry, that was a horrible Justin. Apologies, I could do him no justice. No Justins. Trolls World Tour, I would say, is the movie that we watched we watched it 2 nights after it was released. In its very special kind of not theatrical, but for rent at home for full cost, $20. And I would say it was worth it. Like, we had a great time. There were 4 of us. If we had gone to the movie theater, we would have paid a lot more to see it. And we probably would have gone to the movie theater for this particular movie, especially for our 7-year-old. So we watched it. We enjoyed it. If you liked the first Trolls movie, or your kids did, they will enjoy that. And then other things that we're watching, my wife and I are finally making our way through The Morning Show first season. Loving that. It's super compelling. I'm sure you guys have talked all about it. And then I'm catching up on a few shows that I just missed from HBO, Ballers and Euphoria. And I got to say, Euphoria was a trip. It was a lot of fun to watch that one.
I want to mention Kim's Convenience. I just finally got on the Kim's Convenience train. It's one that I think Fraser Kane may have also tipped me off to, along with Letterkenny a long time ago. But sometimes it takes a long time for me to get in on something. This one is because Eileen started watching it, and I was like, okay, great. I'm just going to jump on too. It's hilarious. Fresh Off the Boat is funny. Kim's Convenience is hilarious. It's just faster paced. It's better writing. It's funnier. And it's about a Korean family who run a convenience store in Toronto, and they're 2 kids, and their 2 kids are kind of college age. One of them not in college, just working at a car rental place. The other one is going to art school, and it's a sitcom, but it's a really, really good sitcom. So check it out. It's Kim's Convenience here in the United States on Netflix. Bryce, what should we be on the lookout for?
Hey, I have a particular recommendation this week. That's how I'll put it, is a particular recommendation. So this recommendation is the new Alex Garland written and directed series on Hulu, Devs. The final episode aired last week on Hulu. Devs is kind of slow. It's a very atmospheric sci-fi story told in the modern time about this world that is about to be, I don't know, impacted, let's say impacted broadly by this ultra high-tech machine. And the machine brings into question, what is the nature of free will and determinism? Are you culpable for things in the past if you were always going to do them? It talks about many world theory, and it has some good things in it. It's got some good ideas in it. I got issues with the show. It's very relaxed, let's say. It's a very relaxed show, and a lot of the episodes, especially the first couple of episodes, are very expositional. They're overly expositional, and that feels clunky when you've got a show about these, high-level science and metaphysical topics. So maybe not Alex Garland's best, but I think this is a sci-fi TV show trying to tackle some stuff that maybe you wouldn't normally see on TV, and I think that is really interesting. So if you've got an appetite for something that's a little longer, I'd say maybe give Devs a try. In the first half of the season, I'll tell you what, you can watch it in the background. So there are 8-hour-long episodes of Devs streaming now on Hulu. And if you've got something that you're watching, send it to us. Let us know, and we can be on the lookout for it. Cordkillers@gmail.com.
Brian, what's that computer you're using right now?
Oh my gosh, you're talking about the one that's definitely from Doghouse Systems, the folks who provided all the computers that power our little studio, Diamond Club Studios here on the 7 Acres Wood, brought to you by our friends at Doghouse Systems. They showed up. They have all this equipment on loan. You can help repay them for their faith in us by going to doghousesystems.com/v/rogue. Use promo code ROGUE at checkout. Get a free SSD. We'll always give you something special. You're going to have to get a computer at some point. Might as well make it from people we love and trust.
Let's move on to the front lines.
Front lines!
Plex released 2 new projects for Plex Power users, as long as they are Plex Power users who pay for Plex Pass. PlexAmp is a music player named after Winamp, which works across Mac, Windows, Linux, iOS, and Android. So you get a nice music player, can do lots of cool tricks. There's also a Plex Dash app for administering your server from Android or iOS. You can do things like edit your artwork, scan for new media, fix incorrect matches, check on server resource usage, tweak your library settings, and view server logs live, as well as many more. That's all for the Plex user. If you are paying for Plex Pass, and it comes out of their experimental R&D stuff. So they're putting out stuff like this every so often.
And Charter is the first cable company outside of AT&T to agree to offer AT&T's HBO Max. Spectrum subscribers who get HBO will be able to log into HBO Max at no extra charge. HBO Max is set to launch in May. I can't believe all these it's finally happening.
Netflix has added parental control options, including the ability to remove a title from showing up on a profile, as well as filter out movies by rating. You can also review a child's viewing history and disable autoplay. Users can also add pins to profiles to keep others from using it, which I imagine even people without kids might use if they have roommates or something like that. Jason, have you tried any of this?
I haven't tried it yet, but I'm really happy to see all those features are great, but it's the pin on profiles that I think is probably the feature that I've been wanting out of Netflix that doesn't have, because we've got up on our main screen, our kids know how to run it and everything, and they can jump in any profile. And I mean, they've given me no reason to believe that they are going to go in there and watch something that they probably shouldn't be. But I've always wondered why Netflix didn't have that, because there is a lot of content in a normal profile that they wouldn't.
I mean, I mainly worry about them screwing up my recommendations by watching. All of a sudden I'm getting the wrong things served up to me.
Yeah, that's true. That too.
Movies Anywhere made its Screen Pass lending feature available to anyone who requests an invite. The feature lets you lend a movie in your Movies Anywhere library for 14 days. More than 6,000 movies in the Movies Anywhere catalog qualify, but about 80% of what they have, apparently it only works for movies that you bought in the last 6 months. You can lend out 3 times a month, and your friends have to finish watching within 72 hours of starting the movie. All of that sounds totally reasonable. I think that's, I know that Tom, you got a beef with digital scarcity, but that analog just seems so natural to me that, gave you a thing and then you got to give it back.
My beef with digital scarcity isn't about this. This is a great feature.
Okay.
The 6-month thing, that's confusing to me a little bit. So is it always at this point in time you can only lend anything from the past 6 months, or is it just like now at launch it only works for 6 months and then everything going forward?
That is a really good question. I don't know the answer to that.
And I don't know why it would just be 6 months.
I would imagine it's a way to dip a toe in the water, so you're not going too headstrong and upsetting the board members, that kind of thing.
It could also be that they've only been planning this feature for this long, and so their deals are only about 6 months old.
That's probably
that seems possible.
That boilerplate only got added as of 6 months ago. Yeah,
possible.
Right.
You mentioned Trolls World Tour earlier, Jason. It released on digital rather than in theaters, setting a record for digital revenue with Universal, reporting it did 10 times its previous best. Previous best had been Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Take that as you will. That would put it around the same number as Avengers Endgame's first day digital sales of about 30 million. Now, we don't have reported numbers for any of this. It's not like box office receipts. So you're having to play a game of detective. But at least it's around what Endgame made. Of course, Endgame also made a lot more money in the theaters. But it does show that Trolls World Tour got bought. A lot of people bought it.
Yeah, and that matters. Sling TV launched Happy Hour across America Tuesday, offering free TV every evening from 5 p.m. to midnight local time. That's not exactly an hour. Users have to be new customers and enter an email address at sling.com/deals/happy-hour, but no credit card. Then you get access to 50 plus channels on the Sling TV Blue service. Amazon has added loads of free content, including some of the free stuff from Sling, to a new curated section called At Home on its Fire TV and Fire tablet devices in the U.S.
I just wonder if Excite will be suing over the at-home use.
Oh, jeez.
2001 called and wants that joke back. No, this is great. Sling TV doing it without requiring a credit card. Smart. Yeah, get the email address so they can bug you to subscribe. That's fair. And a bunch of free TV. Nicely done, even if it is more than an hour. How many other happy hours are more than an hour, Brian?
I don't know.
That's everybody.
Common. Look,
people abuse that word.
Everybody gives us sass because our Night Attack happy hour is only 1 hour, and they're like, other happy hours are more.
You are following the original spirit of the happy.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, let's get to some dispatches from the front. So, Brian, people may have noticed that Spoilerin Time public feed was a little different the last time we sent it out. We are experimenting with putting the individual show recaps out as separate files. You can then watch them all or listen to them all in a row or not. It makes it easier for you to skip the ones that you haven't seen or want to save. Marcus wrote in and said, hey, for the new way of splitting up Spoilerin Time stuff in the feed, how do you intend to handle the movie draft when it's active? Will it be a separate item from the first show discussed? I'm not saying it needs to be, but I was looking for an intro segment, and it took a second for me to realize it was just at the beginning of the first show discussed. Intro or something could be added to the title, I suppose, but I'm not super sure it's needed. Aside from that ambivalent feedback about the non-spoiler stuff, I like having it split up. Makes it easier to drop the stuff I'm not watching or save just the ones I haven't caught up on yet.
Our answer remains the same. We will discuss how to handle the movie draft when there are movies again.
Mm-hmm. I think we will probably have it will probably say movie draft, not intro, because I think people will just accept whatever the first thing is as the intro.
Yeah.
But you'll probably see something that says movie draft update for the week of whatever.
Jeffrey says
federal guidance on that.
Yes.
Jeffrey said, hey man, it's not life changing, but he really likes the separate feeds. Rob says, love the new format with the shows as their own episode. Thanks for putting in the work. And Colin writes, hi, Tom, Brian, and Bryce, longtime listeners, first time caller. Great job on the Spoilerin Time podcast breakout. Positive feedback. He likes that we don't add redundant intros and outros to each episode. Something to look out for. I think we just have some transition music that Pocket Cast puts a weird pause in the middle of. So he just told us to look at that, and we'll take a look at that.
So,
all right. Thanks, Colin.
Yeah, maybe we'll talk about it more in After Talk, but there's method to the madness.
Great.
Though this be madness, there is method in it. Is what Bryce is trying to say. Hey, Jason Howell, thank you so much for joining us, man. It's so good to talk to you again.
Awesome talking with you guys and seeing your faces and seeing that you're happy and healthy. Thank you for inviting me on. This is a lot of fun.
Dude, fantastic, man. So glad you could make it.
Yeah.
If folks want to find more of what you're doing, what are you doing these days? Where can they go?
Well, twit.tv, still producing podcasts over there. Tech News Weekly, twit.tv/TNW is a weekly interview show, and then all about Android. And then I have a new show, Hands on Android, which is kind of what it sounds like. It's more like hands-on tips, tricks, tutorials, that sort of stuff with Android device. That's at twit.tv/HOA. So if you're an Android user, head over there and subscribe. I would love it.
Excellent. Go do it, folks. Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. We're live on twitch.tv/Night Attack, which is also carried on diamondclub.tv Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We'll talk to you again next time.
Hey, Tom Merritt.
Yes, Brian Brushwood.
Know who I love even more than my own children?
Your other children?
No, not my wife. I know what you're saying. I love our $5 patrons. These are the people that keep us loud, live, and independent. Thank you so much, $5 patrons.
You know what? I love them more than not life itself, because then I'd be dead and I couldn't appreciate them, but really, really, really close. And I'm so thankful that they are here to make this show happen.
Thank you so much to all of our $5 a month patrons. You guys are wizards. You're champions.
Thank you, everyone.
You're heroes.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.